Simbe is rolling out fixed sensors to augment its inventory robots, Chris. According to Grocery Dive, Simbe Robotics has introduced fixed sensor units to monitor products in targeted areas of grocery and other retail stores that augment the company's tally aisle scanning robots, the company announced just this past Tuesday. The new equipment, known as Tally Spot, uses computer vision cameras to identify and analyze items in specific zones that more frequently than the robots, which traverse the entire store. Tally Spot, Simbe says, reflects retailers' interest in technology to enable them to keep an even closer eye on products that need frequent restocking or have elevated rates of shrink. Chris, why do you think Simbe is rolling out a fixed position sensor to complement its shelf scanning robots that we already know and love, and so much so that they are also a new sponsor of the Fast Five, might I call
Yeah,
out?
100%. I think they're doing it because it's freaking smart. It's a smart
Yeah.
idea. And to your point, in full disclosure, like Simbe is now a sponsor of this podcast on a weekly basis, and we're going to do some more work with them. And as well, we just released a Spotlight Series podcast with their CEO, Brad Begolia, yesterday when this news broke, talking about this very thing. So again, to your point about subject, we're trying to stay on top of it for all you folks that listen to us on a regular basis. And so the answer to me about why I think this is smart, Ann, it comes down to one word, and that's vigilance. So there are certain areas of the store that you just have to keep a closer eye on. And the robot, as great as it is doing it at standard intervals. So things just move quicker in certain areas than the robot can capture. So those are things where you have high throughput, like probably fresh produce in some stores. High theft is also a big issue. So if you get those running right, the ROI drops to the bottom line pretty quickly. So here's the use case, because I queried some friends of mine. I was like, okay, why is this an important use case?
Yeah.
And what they said to me is like, so you take alcohol, right? You put a fixed position camera looking at the alcohol, and it's basically sending updates, let's say every 15 minutes, so that, if in that 15-minute cycle they see that something got hit, a ton of product got stolen, they can correlate that back to the POS. And then the idea then is that the AP teams can get that information. They can know exactly when to look in the camera systems, the overhead camera systems, to try to figure out who's been stealing, right? That's information that doesn't exist without this type of setup.
Yeah.
The other important point here of why this is smart is it's an extension of what Tally the robot does. The problem with fixed position camera systems is they only are positioned to look at what they look at. They don't get a 360 view. And so the only way this works if it's complemented with the 360 view of the robot as it's scanning the store to get the full view of everything on the shelf. And so the fixed position camera then just tells you what's missing or what's moving really quickly. That's why it's really smart. It's a product extension, and it just widens the market for Brad and the Simbe team.
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't have much more to add. You really hit on all the key points. And I think
So I was so excited to talk about it,
yes,
Ed.
yes. Well, I mean, in that interview with Brad, I remember specifically you talking about, the consistency being a thing. Like
Yep.
you have the level up with the robot because you're getting that real-time consistency. And you can't get that with human labor. Like it just doesn't work that way because you have different people on different shifts. And I think that was the first thing that I thought of when we read about this announcement. But I think you also bring up like, I mean, you were in a store manager. I worked in stores. Like
Yep.
you don't get to that stuff until the end of the day, or like
Yeah.
when somebody comes to you and it's already been done, and the cashmere sweater table's been wiped clean because somebody came. Like now we're talking every 15 minutes, you're able to get some of these, truly real time inputs on what's going on in your store, and I think this is just the beginning for what Simbe and that team is going to be able to unlock with their offering. Like Tally was already great, and now you have Tally Spot coming in. This has just completely supercharged it, which I think proves that I was wrong. And 2024 was just the beginning of in-store robotics. And you were right, Chris. This 2025
2025.
really is going to be the year of
Yeah.
the robot.
Yeah. And to your point, man, like 15 minutes, I was just using that as an illustrative example. Like this could essentially get down to real time too, where
Right.
AP is getting that alert like within 1 or 2 minutes of it happening, and still potentially being able to apprehend or alert authorities in real time that, something's happening. Now there's a whole host of issues that come with that, but it's at least leading to a road of new ideas and new ways to tackle the problem.
Yeah, well, and the last thing too, Chris, that you just made me think of, like I remember when we were talking to somebody on a past Spotlight series about RFID and how they're finally able to, now that RFID is on more products, they're finally able to give authorities in these communities the information that they need. Otherwise, it's done. It's like this would happen in the store, it's
Yep.
done. But now to your point, like you were talking about, like time of day, what they took, how many people, all this information, like that's something that local law enforcement can actually follow up on and start to be held accountable to like end these types of problems, which is huge.
Yeah, and Marshall K just put out a great article on Forbes. I encourage everybody to read it about how Walmart's now deploying RFID on items that are less than that are 99 cents or less. So
Yep.
like these are the solutions that are out there that just make so much more sense than putting products behind glass.